Radio. Within the echoes of our hosts' haunting voices, terror weaves through the airwaves like a malevolent symphony. I am Benson, your spectral guide, leading you into the uncharted realms of the macabre. Brace yourself for a descent into a paranormal abyss with hosts Bobby Washington, Carolyn Grey, and Amy Tydeman. They traverse through tales that linger in the shadows, spectral apparitions, haunted domains, cryptids, and otherworldly encounters. Embrace the darkness, extinguish the lights, steel your nerves for a bone-chilling night into the heart of the unknown. It's time for Strange Darkness Radio.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh, and I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh, can you feel it coming in the air tonight?
Welcome back to another episode of Strange Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Bobby Washington, along with my co-hosts, which are...
Carolyn Grey.
Amy Tydeman.
Hello, ladies. How's it going tonight?
Fantastic.
That's amazing.
Can you guys hear the sirens in the background?
No, I cannot hear what medical emergency you have going on at that location. But
there's something going on right outside my window, apparently.
Oh, wow. No, we can't hear
As long as you can't hear it.
No, that's okay. A good thing.
Well, there's some good microphones or whatever, or headphones.
Yes. So, how are you guys doing tonight? We've had a crazy... I'm sorry, I know I just asked a question and decided to keep going. But we had a crazy last episode. But before we get into that, I want to know how you ladies are doing tonight.
Okay, Bobby, how are you doing? We never ask you how you're doing. We answer and then we ignore you.
That's okay.
Do you want to tell us how you're doing?
That happens a lot in my life. I am actually doing great. I had a lot of angst for this particular episode. We have a lot we want to get into, but we had an amazing last episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll get into that, but I'm doing great. You know, pulling a lot of cables and wires and everything, you know, to get the show going. But yeah, how about you, Carolyn? Anything new?
No, not really. Everything's been good over here. But I would like to know, and I think our listeners would like to know Amy's tea.
Amy's what now?
My tea?
Why'd you say you were having a bad week earlier?
Ooh, she called her out live on the pod. We're podding now, ladies and gentlemen. We're podding. This may be a paranormal podcast, but we got some juicy.
I just think the listeners would like to know.
Dang. Wow.
Jesus. It's just one of those weeks where you hate everybody and you hate everything about them, and that's pretty much all it is. No one can do anything right. And yeah, it's just like that.
What did I do to piss Amy off this week? You guys have to find out later.
We want the names,
I didn't do anything.
Amy.
I did not do anything. I swear.
Well, nobody that any of the listeners would know or care about. So
yes,
just put it that way.
You guys leave Amy alone out there. Let her live her life.
But feel free to share your own stories.
We love all of you,
yes.
obviously.
Of your own skeletons in the closet. Still let me hear.
Nice, I love it.
Please write in and tell us who's pissing you off this week. We want to hear it.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Let's have a contest of who has had the worst week, and then maybe I'll think about sharing my story.
Yeah, it does not have to be from the paranormal side. It can be from the human living side.
It can be human. Yeah.
But no, I am. I'm A-okay though. So
since Carolyn is throwing landmines out, we might as well throw some out towards her. So Carolyn, how is the living arrangements at the new pad you told us about that could possibly be haunted, and you were doing tours with children? Let us know how that's going.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You
Well-
know, graveyard visits with the children.
Oh my God, you guys. I don't live there anymore.
What?
So you invited spirits over and then you abandoned
And then I just left
ship.
them with the kids. Yeah, exactly.
Dang, you talk about a time warp. Like, how is time moving in your state? What the
But
heck?
you guys,
Yes.
I actually do think there might be something weird going on in my new place
Oh.
because Kaya,
Really?
she keeps barking at nothing. Like she'll just start freaking out for no reason. She'll bark at the wall. She'll bark, like she'll leave my room and then bark at my room. It really freaks me out.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that's kind of a sign. She's like seeing
Yeah.
weird things. It's
Okay.
either that or you have like mice or rodents or
Oh
something.
my God, that's even worse.
So,
Yeah.
but
Really.
have you ever thought about this as a
Yeah.
possibility, Carolyn, that, since your Ouija board experiments, from, I don't know, long time back, not even now, that things could be following you or something, or you could have an attachments?
It could be. I don't know. I mean, I've never really noticed it before
Yeah.
or still. So if they are following me, they're not really making it known to me. But yeah, that could definitely be. Although I've never taken it very seriously when I've done Ouija board. I know everyone's going to think this is bad and crazy, but I want to really sit down and do an actual real Ouija board sesh and take
Stay
it
tuned.
seriously.
Yeah, no, for
Will
sure.
your new roommate sit down and maybe do a live Ouija board session?
She
Oh.
probably would. She's down.
Dang. You know
She's
what?
down to clown.
Here's the thing. The funny thing about this situation when it comes to you and Ouija boards, to me, you pull people in who never even use Ouija boards into your fantasies. And so that's a very interesting thing because
Maybe
so
the ghosts are following them.
or
and
you're
not me.
working for them. Like they have you working for them to bring more people into the world
More
of Ouija.
victims.
Yeah, that's interesting. More victims their way.
You're right.
More
I had
souls. More souls.
I have an ulterior motive
Wow, that's
with
interesting.
my Ouija board.
No, I love it. But hang on. You did have paranormal activity happen in your home as far as, hair ties flying across the room and all those good things. So
That was weird. I forgot about that.
yeah, so it's not like you don't have small things that are going on that could potentially be something greater or just things that you're not aware and you brush off as, oh, that's just normally that's normal. I don't know how normal that is, but yeah.
That's so
So-
funny because that
Yeah.
definitely that could be true because I'm so into this stuff and I believe in this stuff, but then when it happens to me, I'm just like, I don't think that's.
Yeah,
There has to be a rational explanation.
exactly.
Well, I swear, like ever since Bobby started talking, like, you know how you were joking around that every time something happens, he automatically assumes that it's paranormal, even though it could just
Jesus.
be something very, very logical. Like,
flickering.
well, I'm starting to do the same thing too. Like, like my shower, like the light over my shower was flickering,
Ooh.
and then I started thinking of Bobby and his lights flickering, and then like the light actually exploded. Or no, it didn't
What?
explode. It fell out and shattered everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, it's
That's
like paranormal.
weird.
And I'm like, oh, that's like paranormal. And I'm like, oh, see, Bobby's got me doing the same thing now. Somebody obviously, it was like user error and they just didn't screw the light bulb in the right way.
Always
But yeah, now I'm
excuses.
like thinking of all these things that could be paranormal too.
Here's the thing. All things are definitely not paranormal, but you still question the things that do occur. So that way you can check and analyze all possibilities. I definitely don't think everything's paranormal, but if I do hear an out of body voice that's coming from the ether, meaning no place, out of the darkness, that is a problem. That is not normal, nor is it logical in, where my brain is analyzing what I'm actually hearing. So, so things like that are the ones that I really, like, wow, that was incredible, or, stuff like that. But as far as the light fixture goes, Amy, it's possible that it could be, right? If you talk to anyone in the home and say, hey, does anyone mess around with this? And, obviously kids are gonna be like, no, mom, it wasn't me, because they don't want to get in trouble. But all things are possible and probable because we are asking at times for things to reach out and let us know. And we have these questions, but it could have been your dad saying, hey, I told you to change this and you need to change this bulb. And now, And he was trying to.
Who's
unscrew
asking
it.
for that? First of all, that's my first question.
That's what dads do. Dads usually make sure their daughters are taken care of, and little things that you ask them to do or you taught them to do, and they're not paying attention to it. Things like that can occur. Because I would do that to my daughter. I would haunt her and be like, Jasmine,
What?
I told you to
check your tire pressure.
check your tire pressure. Now I'm gonna try to pop your tire. Who knows? But it's possible. It's possible.
Poor children.
Yes, that's the way it works. That's the way it works.
The
But
light bulb thing is weird, though. That's very weird to me,
It's
especially if it's
weird.
working.
I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I wasn't in the shower and then it fell out.
oh,
and
you would have
shattered.
passed
that
out.
would've
You would have
been
probably tried to
bad.
get out of that thing so fast. Cutting your
Yeah.
feet. It would have been like a bloody movie. One of your horror flicks.
Mhm.
No.
No, that would have been a nightmare. But I'm gonna chalk that one up to user installer error.
Okay,
That's what I
okay.
think it was. Yeah.
All right. She had some handyman sneaking in her house in the middle of the night, and he unscrewed some things. But okay, we'll call it that. You never know. Just look out, people. Look out for the obvious sometimes.
Check your
Look
bulbs.
Check your
Yeah.
bulbs. Check your light fixtures. Make sure they're screwed
Check
down.
your tire pressure.
For sure. That's funny. But okay, let's get into this. So we had a phenomenal guest on our last show, and his name, as you guys know, is Mr. Jim Harold, an amazing podcaster. He was incredible. He has the Campfire series of books. He has the Campfire podcast. He has the Paranormal podcast. He is the standard in podcasting. And we were, lucky enough to have him grace our airwaves. And I hope you guys love that episode. I was totally out of it during that episode, to be honest. I was totally, because I'm a big Jim Harold fan. I've been listening to him forever. And even when I first started listening to him, I wanted to do my own podcast 15, 16 years ago from the paranormal perspective. And so I was, I had a little bit of Carolyn running through my veins as far as, fan, being over fandomed, while doing the interview. So
You were
hope you
fangirling
guys-
out.
Oh yeah, I
You
was.
was.
My skirt was up. My skirt was up. I was damn near bent over, but it was wild. It was wild for the night. But yeah. It was. He's an amazing guest, an amazing podcaster,
Mhm.
and hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys have any thoughts on that particular interview with Mr. Harold?
I was super impressed just by all his credentials, all the books he's written, and his multiple podcasts and shows that he's been on, and the two that he runs. And I can't believe how long he's been doing it. You said
Yeah.
16 years
Yeah.
ago that you listened. Yeah, that's crazy. He was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he was good. I'm just amazed that he came onto our show
Yes.
and
yes.
did an interview with us. Like, who are we to be interviewing the master of horror podcasting? Like, I think that's amazing. And
Yes.
I'm pretty proud of us that we did it, and he was actually really nice. And yeah, I really liked the stories that he shared. My favorite part was when he shared the story about the couple that went into the diner,
Oh yeah.
and then they started seeing like their
Yeah, that was
images
creepy.
onto the picture. That sounds like a Twilight Zone
Mhm.
episode. And yeah, I love that story, and I wish something like that would happen to me. Like, I want to go to a diner and see my face start forming on a painting. I wouldn't have run out. I would have stayed there to see what happened.
Amy,
Like,
but
that's pretty.
wait a minute though. But the whole point of that thing was, what if you became stuck? What if you became one of the patrons that never leave?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I guess there is that. Well, now that you mentioned
Amy's
that,
like,
yeah.
oh, cool. There's a picture of me on the wall. Where?
I mean, if
How
it
could
was
that
like,
come from?
I mean, if it was one of those pictures, like, those
Never
James
been here
Dean
before.
pictures. Like, if I was stuck with like people that look like James Dean, I might have just stayed there then. Yeah. I'd
You better
do
hope
that.
there's a James Dean in there with you, because if not, there was a lot of old big guys that he described. So
Yeah, no, that's
Ghost
a good point.
bikers.
I don't want to be trapped in a picture, so I didn't think about that part. But that was pretty cool, though. Actually, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there has been a Twilight Zone or like a Tales from the Dark Side. That sounds
Yeah.
familiar, actually.
Yeah, it does.
But I really enjoyed that, and I read a little bit of his book, and yeah, he's got some great stories.
Yeah, the stories are amazing. There's over 65 stories in the book, and they're really short stories. They range from all across the board, from UFOs to Ouija board stories, which Carolyn loves, to just paranormal to time slip stories. They're all over the place, and they're amazing collection. If you're out camping and you want to creep some people out, man, bust out that book and tell a couple of stories, and you guys will not rest easy, for sure. Definitely. So,
and they're true stories, right?
Yeah.
People give him their stories
as true as he knows, meaning they're coming on telling their story, and hopefully, and he believes, them for the, for what they're saying and what's going on. And I love his interviewing style. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't bat an eye when someone's telling him something that's so outlandish that, we would probably be giggling or be like, okay, yeah, right. Like, so, but yeah, he's a master at what he does, and makes, people feel comfortable, which, we, do that too, for sure. We want people to come on our show and tell their stories and definitely feel comfortable. And because, again, to me, my story is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard, and I lived it and I've seen it. So I totally get it from that standpoint. But yeah. So that was a great time with Mr. Harold, and hopefully he'll grace our airwaves, again in the future. So yeah. Yep.
Pretty cool.
Pretty good. So it is time. Benson took a break off. He's like, man, you know what? I've been getting used and abused. So he's like, what do I have left to, reach for or do after doing the intro from Mr. Harold? So Benson was like, not today. So we don't have Benson for tonight, but we do have a crazy part of the show we want to get into. And that's the Terrence Howard phenomenon. Because he went on Joe Rogan's show, which was amazing. It has over 10 million views. And he started citing things that seem fantastical, some that seem like engineering feats, others that seemed rewriting, science, all of science for the most part, questioning whether it's mathematics, whether it's physics, whether it's how the universe is formed, how the creation is done, the whole 9 yards. He went on the show and just went ham. And I thought it was very interesting. I watched it probably at least 10 times. One, to try to understand it, and two, to try to get his point of view and what he was saying. And then also listening to other people that are in the scientific field to see if what he was saying was real or not. Did it make any sense? Were the numbers adding up, and was the mathing basically? We have audio that we're going to play for you guys. We're not going to put you to sleep with it, but we are going to give it to you so you kind of understand where he's coming from. And then I want to give my point of view, and Carolyn and Amy can give theirs also. But Carolyn, what did you think about it?
I really don't know.
Okay.
Fair, I really don't know.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and Amy, you're trying to play catch up and about the madness until we kind of brought it to your attention.
I did not listen to 3 hours of him, because that's just a long time. Like, I don't have the attention span for that.
It's just one interview.
Yeah, but I did catch bits and pieces of it, and I will say that he is definitely a very, very interesting guy. What he has to say is very interesting, and he's obviously intelligent. I mean, the things he talks about, I mean, I don't even know. Yeah, the claims are pretty outrageous, according to the experts. I am no expert. They all seem to agree that what he's saying is just not, there's issues there. But I think that I don't want to call him crazy, because unless you're like an expert and have all the information on everything he's saying, like, who are you to say, oh, he's crazy? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, unless you're an expert, then maybe you could start like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't agree with that, blah, 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 blah. But he obviously has a lot of knowledge, and he's spent a lot of time studying all of these concepts. And I think the important thing about him is he's not afraid of what people think about him. Like, he's willing to put himself out there and be called a fool or be called crazy. And not a lot of people will do that, especially in his position. But I admire him for doing that, because I think it kind of like it's opened up a lot of people's minds to things that they wouldn't think about. Like, we just kind of accept things, as the norm. But sometimes you need to not accept those things in order to move different directions. And maybe there are alternate realities, alternate truths that we've just never, ever even considered. And the fact that I think it takes people like him to put these ideas, and maybe go in different directions that normally we don't go, because we've been told this is this and that's that, and there are no other possibilities.
It goes against mainstream science or whatever.
Yeah, so so I admire him for doing that, and he's been saying this stuff for years, it looks like, and so kudos to him. He believes what he believes, and like I said, I'm no expert, so I can't even like debate like a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, but it is very interesting, the bits and pieces I heard, and he's a smart guy. So
exactly. Well, you're a very smart woman to even get around all of what you just said without even knowing about really what the topic is. So thank you for that. But here's the thing. When I first saw him, he went to Africa. I forgot where in Africa he was at, but he was doing an interview with the president of this particular area and talking about how he was going to help them with solar energy and new forms of energy that would, help their areas and stuff like that, right? So when I first saw it, it's like, okay, is this guy doing a role? Is he getting ready for a role? Is this something, some acting gig? And then he went on another show. Then he started going on shows after shows. And then at some point, he even talked about how he was not going to do acting anymore. He was going to dedicate his life to this particular search and information of these new concepts of whether it was mathematics, whether it was physics, just all these different things. And I was like, okay, this might be real. Like, let me find out a little bit more. Let me see what the, scientists and all the great minds out there are saying about what he's talking about. Like, where did this come from? Right. And then you hear about other actors that come forward like, oh yeah, Terrence is always offset talking about all these particular equations and how the universe was formed and all these different things. And so this has been going on for a while. Like, he's, like you said, Amy, he's been studying this, at his leisure, and he has no formal education on these concepts. So let's go ahead and listen to Terrence.
I didn't come into this world the way everybody else does, I don't think. I used to think that everybody had the similar experience, but like if I asked you, what was your first memory in life? What would it be?
I don't think I know.
My first memory was almost like when you're dreaming and you're falling and you hit the bottom and you wake up. That was my first memory, but I didn't wake up here. I was inside my mother's womb. And I was about maybe 6 months inside the womb. And I'm like, okay, don't forget I'm here. Okay. Don't forget. You go to sleep. You wake up again. Now something's moving in front of you. And you're like, oh, that's my friend. But I had a different name for it. I didn't know it was my hand. But I knew I had a title for it. Go back to sleep, all of those things. Then ultimately you get ready to come out. I remember all of that.
You remember coming out?
Remember being compressed, and you want to panic, but you're flooded with like some serotonin and dopamine to where you feel relaxed. You go right back to sleep. You remember being born. I remember being circumcised.
So let's.
Ouchie.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to remember that. But yeah. So let's just take that first part real quick. So let me ask you, ladies, do you guys have a first memory? Do you guys remember that far back?
I not that far back. Maybe possibly a memory of when I was like 1 or something
wow.
like that.
That's pretty cool.
But as far as being in the womb, no, I do not.
What about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember. Probably younger than like 8 any memories. So, and it's so funny because I totally believe in reincarnation, and I believe in souls, and I believe that it is possible for a very enlightened being to have memories of their soul coming to earth and being in their mother's womb. So, but for some reason, I'm not sure if I believe him. Like, he's either a very enlightened being.
Wait. You believe it can happen, but you just don't believe him. You believe it's possible, but you don't believe him.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know why.
I mean, is it possible that he's just a very vivid dreamer? Because there are some people that have dreams and they are so realistic that they actually believe that happened. And maybe it's just something that he dreamed at a very, very young age. And that's kind of like stuck with him as that's his reality. I'm not discounting. I mean, anything in this world is possible. I think we've seen. So I think scientifically, they say it's not possible because your brain is not even developed, you're still in the womb and, like you don't remember these things. So, I mean, but it's possible. I just don't. Yeah. Like you said, I don't know if I believe that. I think he believes that, but I'm just wondering if it's possible that he just is a very, very vivid dreamer.
I have heard that people tell stories about remembering being in the womb and actually being born. So he's definitely not the first person I've heard say, a story similar to this. I probably heard about maybe 4 or 5 stories. So, just throughout the years and looking up different paranormal things and different types of research, I have heard of that happening. Now, again, doesn't mean that they weren't just dreams that were coming back to these particular people, but I have heard that. But as you say about the dreams, let's get a little bit deeper into his psyche and where he believes these things formed or came from.
But for me, that's where it started, in there. And then when I was about 5 years old, I had another dream. And the room filled up with like this fluid, a dark fluid. And I could see the ripples of it moving around. And there was a being there. And I remember being walked through that fluid with him. And I was trying to look up at him, and I couldn't turn my head to look at him. And he had his hand straight. I knew his voice, but I did not know who it was, but I felt confident and comfortable. And as we moved along this dark blue fluid path, with like chartreuse covering the, how when you look into a pool and you see the ripples, and if you're at the bottom of the pool, you'll see the ripples overlapping. That's what it looked like. And then when we got to the end of it, he said to me, if you could have anything in the world, what would it be? Now, we were really poor. My dad had just gotten out of prison, for manslaughter. I didn't have much, but I said to him, I want to know how everything works. And at that moment, he used his left hand and he opened up the door. And there was this mansion, big brown doors. And inside of it was these crystalline flowers, big crystalline flowers, like a giant, like 5 feet across. And every time I tried to see his face, he would reach in and hand me another shape. And I was so fascinated with the shapes because they didn't look like the platonic solids. They didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. And he would hand me these shapes, and each shape was different and amazing. And I woke up from that dream. But after that moment, anytime something strange would happen in a dream, I had the powers of inception. Anytime I would be naked at school, I would say, I'm not naked. I must be dreaming. And immediately I would run out of the school or run out of wherever I was, and I would find that mansion again. And I had access to all the knowledge. The proof of it is the 97 patents that I have now. The proof of it is the industries that I've innovated. It's like waking up, having a dream that you have a diamond in your hand, and out of nowhere, you wake up and you're hoping you're holding it, and you try and hold it, and it's gone when you wake up. But the proof is all the stuff that I've been able to do now.
So all these thoughts are from the time you were a baby. These are not things that you've learned. These are things that you had in your mind from the time you were born.
From before that time, because I remembered that I had been someplace else before. Now, what's interesting, that voice that I heard, that's my voice now. So it was like my greater self was leading me through, and periodically would show up again in other dreams.
What are your thoughts?
That's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I might be biased because most of the stuff on the internet now is all disproving everything he says. It's people making him out to be a fraud. So I was listening to a lot of that before we started recording, but I think he is on to something, and I think he discusses things that a lot of us, including I think the three of us, already believe. And so, the people who don't get it or who are trying to disprove what he's saying are the people who already think the way they think, so it's tough. I don't know.
Okay. This is what's interesting to me is out of everything I've heard, whether it be it scientific, from the science community, from the professors, from the people at Harvard, from all these different communities of higher education, no one ever wants to discuss his dream. No one ever wants to discuss the fact that an entity or a being from some other ethereal space and time, whether it alien, whether it's
your future self
coming to you in a dream, however that is, they want to discount the information that he was given, but he is on the mark with a lot of what he says, but he just doesn't use scientific terms in the way that's educated, or the way that we know it to be, the way he says certain phrases and different things that he's talking about. But his science on certain things that he's created and has made, like the Linchpin, is actually working, and actually objects that are able to be utilized. So he's either came to these conclusions himself from whatever, or how you have a dream, right? And then you think like, man, if I can pull that thought out of the dream or what I saw or make whatever, a lot of books, a lot of stories, a lot of devices, a lot of things come from dreams. They come from information that's been put into that person to, make that stuff happen, make it come to reality. And people discount that. It's like, there's a lot of things that we have now. I've always said this, that people will never try to make better. I mean, just the sink. I mean, the most simplest things that you say, wait a minute, we should be able to have a better X, Y, and Z, right? Because it's just basic and simple, but we have the tools and technology to make a lot of things better. And we just don't, because at the end of the day, no one's even trying to solve something that works, because we all agreed just a simple sink, like, a sink design, right? A bowl that holds water, drains off. There are a million different ways now that you can utilize all kind of different properties and, with a lot of different things. And so who's to say that these beings didn't come to him and give him this information, but he's trying to interpret it the best way he can. And how he is interpreting is by looking at all this information and grasping at straws, but he's still able to stick with the basics of what he learned, in these dreams, because a lot of it is functional. It works. It comes together. It does a lot of different things. He was actually able to build it's a device that's able to fly in any direction, up, down, left, right, at any angle. And it looks like a UFO as far as how it's designed and how the movement is on it. So I just find it extremely, extremely interesting. Amy, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Obviously, when you listen to him, he is not like a normal person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the stuff that comes out of his mouth, and the knowledge that he has, normal people can't talk like that or even begin to comprehend the things that he's talking about with years and years of study. I don't know, maybe he studied for years, that's possible, but this is not like just, I'm interested in, quantum physics and all this math
here's
stuff.
The only thing to what you just said. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to kind of capsulize that. If he studied, he would have the formal education as far as the phraseology of what he's saying. He does not have that. He has his interpretation of that language. But if you study anything, you're going to use the exact appropriate phrases, with the scientific community, because you've been studying those books. And so, so you're going to use that language. He is just trying to interpret it from his perspective and how to dial in what he's trying to recreate, what he's seen. And it's so hard to try to recreate something that you've seen, but it's so locked into your mind to where you're just trying your best to recreate something. And like, how do I get to this point? And I'm going to do it the best way I can. Because if you go and try to explain it to a physics teacher or an engineer of what you're trying to create, you're like, I can't explain it, but I can do it myself. And it's so funny because I'm like that too. I try to explain something. I was like, you know what? Let me do it myself, because I'm not going to be able to explain it to you. I'll just create it.
Yeah. So I definitely,
he clearly knows what he's talking about and what he's trying to say. It just might be like a miscommunication on how it's coming across to others. But
right, this is not just like some everyday conversation, and he's just like saying random things. Like he is coming up with very, very specific, intricate details. And it's coming from. Maybe he's just super gifted. I have no idea, but it is very strange that this actor with no formal education on these topics is coming about making these claims, having the kind of knowledge that he has. Like, that's not like regular people do not do that. So, I mean, I think there's something to be said about that. Whether he's right or wrong, like, I don't know. It's interesting to listen to him, and I don't know. And then I heard like, doesn't he have, like, I know he wants to talk about his 97 patents, right? But doesn't he, I thought I read somewhere, and I did not research this, so I don't know, Bobby, if you maybe have more information, but doesn't he have some patent that the VR companies are utilizing in their technology, but he's not making money off of it?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that accurate?
Okay, it's accurate, but it's been disproven to a degree. He tried to say that he created VR, and so they, you know how the internet sleuths and everything else, they went back, and I think the VR unit was created in 1960 something, but he did have a patent for VR, and that nobody had, and he had a lot of different patents, and he ended up not renewing the patent. Right. And so when you don't renew a patent, everybody else can use it and take from it. They still have to say, hey, this comes from this particular person, and so on and so forth. But you cannot make money off of it or monopolize off of it because you let the patent go. You didn't pay on the patent. And it does, all these companies who use VR, his patent is underneath all of that. He would have made billions if he would have just paid for his patent. So, technically he didn't create it, but he formed his version of what VR is, and that whole version, everyone uses it, from Sony to Google to Facebook to everyone uses that particular patent. And so
that's fascinating.
That is extremely fascinating, because again, it goes into, because I'm leaning really heavily in the sense that he was abducted at some point and he doesn't remember the abduction, but he was taught certain types of things. Yes, this is Bobby going on one of his crazy ass tangents for sure. Not even a question. But just you cannot get close to breaking down certain aspects in mathematical equations, in physics, and geometry and engineering by happenstance. You can't fall into those things, right?
Right.
And so somehow, some way, he was able, and not even taking people's theories. And again, even if he took people's theories, which again, to me, he would use the appropriate language, but he still didn't do that, because at the end of the day, you would just be repeating what they're done and doing. He's actually created things from voids that weren't even there, that everybody was seeing, and they just didn't have their finger on this particular equation. Because that's the thing about mathematics and physics. You can be one number off in eternity. You will never know what that number is, right? So it's not something that you can just guess or fall into. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But we'll go on. But I do want to make you guys understand how far his mind reaches. So I do have one thing I want to play.
It's time for a commercial break. We'll be right back. To all our devoted listeners out there, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you for tuning in and joining us on our eerie adventures into the unknown. Your support makes each episode of Strange Darkness Radio even more thrilling. Do you have a spooky encounter or bone-chilling tale to share? Don't keep it to yourself. Call our Strange Darkness Radio hotline at 916-741-3032 or drop us an email at strangedarknessradio@gmail.com to be featured on the show. Your story could send shivers down our listeners' spines. Stay connected with us on social media for exclusive updates and behind-the-scenes content. Follow us on Instagram at Strange Darkness Radio, X at SD Radio. And remember, whether you're commuting, unwinding at home, or braving the darkness of the night, you can listen to Strange Darkness Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's journey into the unknown together, if you dare. Now let's get back to Strange Darkness Radio.
Everything's alive. There is no death, but that the Bible talked about a mechanistic world. God took dirt and blew into it the breath of life, and it came to life. But if you look at the Brownian effect, what is breathing? Going from positive to negative. And they see all these, even the plastic that makes these things up are still going from, it's still carbon, polarizing from positive to negative. Breathing in, breathing out. It's just under a different state of matter, but there is no death. There's no death. Everything's eternal.
So what do you guys think about that?
I agree with what he said. I think that energy never dies. It just transforms or changes. And so, I think
Okay.
I don't know. I was just distracted by the fact that he sounds like a 70-year-old woman in that class.
Wow. Dang, Amy's throwing some haterade on that. Dang.
I'm like, wait, was that him?
His voice is like well known, Amy. He's a great actor.
He sounded like a old woman.
That's stupid.
Sorry, Terrence.
A wise old woman.
Very wise old woman.
So here's the thing. He created all of this, right? He created a treatment. And he sent it. He ended up bumping into Neil deGrasse, or he wanted to basically have him.
Wait. Mm-hmm. Treatment.
Yes.
Did you say treatment?
Yes. His works. He did a write-up, a treatment. And not a physical treatment, but a book.
Like doesn't he call it something else, like a treatise or something? Treatise?
I'll go.
Oh, okay. That. I'm sorry. Yeah,
no, you're fine.
Go ahead. You threw me off when you said treatment. Sorry.
I believe it's called a treatment. I get what you're saying. But yeah. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We don't need to look it up. He created. He wrote it's not a thesis, but he created some works. Basically, he wanted Neil deGrasse Tyson to check them out. So Neil did, and it did not go well at all because he basically just shied on on everything that Terrence was doing, and he did not understand it whatsoever as far as what it seemed like anyways. Because again, he did have a lot of things that really did make sense, and so there was a little mini war. Neil was pissed on the way Terrence said it on Joe's show. So let us play just a little bit of that.
I recently learned I got name checked by Terrence Howard on his recent appearance on Joe Rogan.
I reached out to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like, hey, man, I'd love for you to come on my show, do my radio, do my TV thing. Would love that. I was like, but I've got something I want to introduce to you.
I got name checked because 8 years ago, he sent me a 36-page treatise.
And it was only 36 pages.
So this is Terrence Howard attempting to reinvent mathematics and physics. A little backstory there. I took initial interest in Terrence because my mother said to me, do you know Terrence Howard? I said, yeah, I know. You mean the actor? She said, yeah. Well, I heard him interviewed on NPR. On there, he said that like when he was a kid, he wanted to be like a scientist and study the universe. I said, well, that's cool. Okay, maybe we'll get him on Star Talk. We love talking to celebrities who have a sort of soft geek underbelly. At the time, I didn't quite know how to get in touch with him, but we met at something called the Upfronts, which is where networks present their next season's TV shows.
I saw him at an event Upfront.
And then this came in my inbox. In this particular case, since I basically solicited it from him, I actually spent time reading every line of all 36 pages. And I commented. My comments are in red here. You see that? So I spent a lot of time on it. And I thought, out of respect for him, what I should do is give him my most informed critical analysis that I can. In my field, we call that a peer review. You come up with an idea, you present it either at a conference or you first write it up and you send it to your colleagues. It is their duty to alert you of things about your ideas that are either misguided or wrong, or there's the calculation that doesn't work out, or the logic doesn't comport. That's their job. Not all ideas will turn out to be correct. Most won't be. But to get to that point, you need to know things like, what has everyone else said about this same subject? Am I repeating someone else's work? Is this a new insight that no one else has had, but has foundations that are authentic or legitimate or objectively true? Am I making a false assumption? Am I making an assumption that someone else has already shown to be false? All of this goes on the frontier of science. Let me make it clear that I'm delighted when I see people with active minds trying to tackle the great unknowns in the universe. It's a beautiful thing that people want to participate on this frontier. What can happen is, if you're a fan of a subject, let's say, a hobbyist, let's call it, it's possible to know enough about that subject to think you're right, but not enough about that subject to know that you're wrong. And so there's this sort of valley in there, a valley of false confidence. This has been studied by others, and it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Okay, let's talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. I guess saying that to a person who you're trying, checking out their works is like basically a slap in the face. Is what the name I was trying to think about for the mathematician is Eric Weinstein. And he basically said that Neil basically slapped Terrence with that phrase or that term, that person's name. So yeah. And also, just for a Bobby correction, treatment is a document that presents the story idea for a film and writing the entire script.
What's it called?
It's a treatment. Only because I
okay, Bobby.
No, but just hang on.
You really went and looked that up because I questioned if you had the right term. Okay, Bobby.
That's not why I looked it up.
Bobby put me in my place. Everybody.
No. You were right.
Because you had it right.
Exactly, Amy. What are you talking about?
I had it right. Treat us.
No, I sent my buddy my script, and so the dialogue that we were using was the treatment to finish it, so I can finish do the whole script for that.
So you had
the thing that I'm doing.
mind.
So
you showed me, Bobby.
Yeah, but I'm serious. I'll send you that later. But anyways,
no, I believe you. No, I was wrong. I was just when you said treatment, I was just confused because I'm thinking of an actual some treatment, cancer treatment, medical treatment.
No.
So
I
wasn't discounting your use of the word treatment. Like you didn't have to
go
look up Webster's dictionary and all that stuff.
No, we were talking about a treatment.
Okay.
No, trust me.
She's sweet.
I was not correct. I was correcting myself, Amy. That's all.
You're both equally right.
Yes. And I did use
I am happy to be wrong. Okay,
no, you're right. Amy, you were not wrong at all. What do you
okay.
I used the phrase wrong because I was talking about treatment film stuff that I'm doing now. Anyways.
Bobby's the dumb one.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Carolyn, for that. I really appreciate it.
You said it, not me.
That's okay. I think
we have the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes.
Right before our eyes.
Yes, I will take that public school lashing. But no worries. But anyways, I just wanted to clear that up instead of having to clear it up later. But yeah.
I am convinced that Neil deGrasse Tyson is like working for the government. Like he's so mainstream in his thinking and he just completely shuts down anyone who has any kind of an outside view.
Yes,
I'm so convinced that he's just a fake
he will
scientist puppet.
Yes, aliens don't exist. They would never be able to come here. It's not even us coming back, coming from the future to the past. There's all these things. He doesn't buy into any of that stuff. So, and then even what surprised me about the whole thing is that he didn't even ask Terrence, like, where did you gain this knowledge? He's putting Terrence on a peer-to-peer with him. Why would he do that? He's not going to get peer reviewed because he's not a scientist. He's not in those realms. Like it doesn't even make any sense. It's like if Neil handed Terrence a script, a treatment, right? He's going to look at it and read it and say, you know what? This should not be a script. Like this is horrible. This is terrible. I can't believe who wrote this for you? And just totally just slay his whole script. Like it's not even, this is something that you'll never see on TV. This is garbage and all this other crap. Well, he's not a script writer. He's not any of those things. But Neil automatically put him at a high level. So where does that come from? Why would he do that?
Yeah. And he didn't try to make it digestible or understandable. Exactly. He just completely shuts it down without.
Yeah.
Did he? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say,
does he ever...
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, does he ever explain what exactly was wrong about Terrence Howard or what he was peer reviewing in that interview or in that clip or whatever it was? Does he explain point by point what he's even talking about? Or
he has the book. It looked like a book, a mini novel in his hand. He's flipping through it. He has all the red marks that he marked, and it was bad. It was a lot of stuff that he was going over,
more red.
Yeah, it was a lot
more red than black.
Yeah, he drew drew faces on it. Man, it was bad.
I don't know that Terrence was upset that he's discounting his claims. I think it's more the fact of the way he treated him, right? Didn't he just kind of he didn't get back to, like you said, he didn't give him feedback. He didn't he pretty much just gave him that and just cut him off after that. Didn't really have any meaningful conversations after that.
Didn't give him the time of day.
Yeah, he didn't give him the time of day because after he saw that, he was like, this guy is cuckoo. I am done with this guy. I think I could be wrong, but I thought that was where Terrence was coming from. Like, I don't think Terrence is against having a debate about the things that he believes in.
Yeah.
I think he's open to like having like these intelligent, open-ended conversations, but I think it was more like he felt dissed in the way that Neil deGrasse went about the whole thing.
For sure. Definitely.
Because wasn't what's the guy's name? Weinstein that was on the show too?
On the second episode.
Weinstein?
Yeah, they brought him back. Yeah.
Because I think he went on there and, disputed like a lot of what Terrence was saying too. But I don't think Terrence was insulted, right? Didn't he say like...
I'm going to play some of that.
Come back here, Terrence. The best thing that I've seen out of Terrence Howard, that I will tell people, this is why you never throw the baby out with the bathwater. This thing that you created is based on an error. And it's a beautiful error. And I think people are just not going to grasp it.
What's the error?
The error is that the arc cosine of minus 1/3 is not equal to 3/5 pi. What's going on is that inside of a tetrahedron, if I understand you correctly, I've got these vectors that point out towards the vertices. And between any two vertices, any of the four vertices, there's one of the 6 edges.
Right.
What's the angle between those two vertices as measured from the center of mass inside of a tetrahedron?
Still be at 120 degrees.
No, it's the arc cosine of minus 1/3.
That's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Now, you say this is an undiscovered geometry. Now, why is that an undiscovered geometry?
Well, because they gave me the patents.
No. We got to stop that with the patents.
No.
So in case you didn't get that like me the first time I heard it, it simply means the angles to make the linchpin shape don't add up. So the shape isn't 100% perfect. That's why probably Terrence was the first to make it. Next, Eric explains why he finds it brilliant.
What you discovered is a little bit like even temperament. Now, even temperament is a lie.
Right.
Do you know about even temperament?
Yes.
Okay.
An attempt to modulate or keep everything, start right back at the beginning and avoid the Pythagorean comma, avoid the necessary expansion.
Now we're talking the Pythagorean comma. You've got a Pythagorean comma in the middle of your linchpin.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
With 109.147
yes. Rather than 108.
Yes.
You bastard.
Yes.
Yeah, so I caught you.
Okay, well, you didn't catch me. I just used a little thing that they don't know about.
No, I know about and the reason.
But
wait.
I ain't going.
Terrence, come back here, Terrence.
I'm about to bring you something.
My claim is that you pulled off the same thing by finding a cheat inside of the linchpin, which is why it's genius. And I don't even think you know how genius this thing is my guess.
I'm about to show you noble gas, and I'm going to show you matter.
Fuck the whole thing up.
So,
listen to me. The number of edges in a tetrahedron is what?
And the tetrahedron is 6.
And that's why you have 6 pentagons. But these 6 pentagons are not, either they're not perfect or they're not joined perfectly. You put 6 motors in these things with propellers, and you have 6 degrees of freedom.
There you go.
You have an object. Well, so we talk about pitch, roll, and yaw. But those are basically, if I understand correctly, the basis vectors for the Lie algebra of SO3 or spin 3 or SU2.
What's Lie algebra?
Well, so the idea is I have a rotation group of symmetries of this object about its central vertex. Okay?
Right.
And that's one of the things. You can put one of these things up, and with 3 degrees of freedom, I can spin it, right, like a full-on UFO, and just have it moving in crazy ways that nothing else can move. Because a quadcopter has only 4 degrees of freedom because it's got the 4 motors.
This is unlimited.
Okay. Well, but it's going to distract us. Let's get to that in 1 second because that's super cool.
Okay.
By the way, that's a CGI.
Yes,
but I've
that's a
actually
CGI.
seen guy actually flying this around, so I don't want to do this.
We've got like 19 of them. That's actually.
So what's going on with this is that you have 3 degrees of freedom, which is the rotations that I need here. But you've got 3 extra degrees of freedom to move in different places. Now, there's something called the affine group, which is the semi-direct product of SO3 with the R3 group of translations.
And the SO3 has 8. It introduces the chromatic aspect of.
Don't go chromatic. Just
don't go chromatic.
You've got something brilliant.
Okay.
Again, I don't know that you invented it. I think you did.
I did invent it.
I promise you, I think you did.
I didn't invent it. It was given to me. An angel gave that to me, and I'm sorry that everybody.
Terrence, I'm sorry to say this. There's a way in which we all feel pressure to give away the genius stuff that we do to some higher power.
And that's my point. Science professors, the universities that are out there for the most part will not even entertain any type of alien or, spiritual guidance or concepts when it comes to information, when it comes to things that are bestowed upon a person or given to someone as even a probability. It's like, don't even go there.
Did you know Plato actually said that we don't learn things, we remember them? And I think that this is exactly what's happening here. I think that Terrence Howard is receiving this information from who knows where from the universe, and either he doesn't fully understand it or the way he's communicating we just can't fully understand it. But I do think that, like I said before, I think he's presenting a lot of ideas that people are becoming more open and receptive of. And he's saying things that I believe. He's just saying it in his own way, I guess.
Exactly. That's what I believe also. I always talk about the man on the street theory as far as whether it's a homeless person, whether it's a person with a sign, a person with scriptures, John 3:16, that are standing there asking, for money and needing help, to where if you believe in the Bible and you go to God is sending his apostles information, right? What apostles would walk the earth today? Nobody would believe them. Nobody would believe anything they're saying, and let alone trying to prove it to be real, other than you having God himself out doing miracles, right? But then you can't have that, because then that doesn't go off of faith, because you can see it being done. And so obviously you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to heaven. This man, is bringing people back from the dead. So, faith is wiped out there. So you're dealing with that factor. So that goes into the whole thing. It's like what I always believe in, that whole thing about just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. I don't understand how you can take a person who is even a child, and the child can remember a past life, right? And then tell you about the people who he met in that past life and have names and track them down that are in their 90s and 80s, right? And this kid is like 4 or 5 years old, and they're like, no, it's not possible. It's not scientific. We can't recreate this in a lab. We can't reprove it, this, that, and the third, right? I just don't get it, because a lot of the things that we believe and now that are scientific, our ancestors had faith in, they had belief in, right? It's only that we had instruments now to prove those theories to be true, right? But where did they get those ideas and concepts from? So that's my
It's
thing.
like a spectrum. I think everything in life is a spectrum, and it's like on one side you have the super hyper religious, faith-based, flat earthers, people who really follow the Bible to literally its exact word. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have like the atheist scientific community. And it's like, if you want to see the full picture, you kind of have to be in the middle. You have to appreciate both sides of it. And I think that is a big problem with our scientific mainstream, is that they don't acknowledge anything that you were just saying, Bobby. They don't acknowledge the spiritual. They don't acknowledge things that we can't perceive, even though they know. I mean, it's been proven that there are other dimensions, right? That's like the scientific term for it.
Yep.
So they're very aware that there are things out there that we can't perceive, that we can't feel or hear or touch, that are sharing our space. And yet they won't acknowledge that it's spiritual, it's energy, it's all, everything doesn't have to be so mechanical and so literal and physical. And I don't know.
Yeah, it just boggles my mind. There are a lot of things and technologies that we have, to this day, that we're able to do things like the pyramids. I don't believe there were 10,000 slaves in Egypt that drug stones from, 50 miles or 100 miles to build each block.
You don't,
that would only
Bobby?
take.
You don't believe
Doesn't
that?
make sense.
No, that's impossible.
So you think it was like a UFO, like the aliens came and did that?
No, not at all. I believe we had, there was levitational devices that we had to levitate stones. and to put them in place, whether it was sonic, whether it was via electromagnetism or some type of concept like that. I do not believe that they were drug into place and then stacked upon each other. We can't recreate that now with the size of stones, let alone in some sand. They've tried this study, and I forgot the name of the school that tried the study, but they used like palm trees, and then they took stones and put them on top of the tree trunks to pull the stones along, and like, oh, look how easy this moves, and so on and so forth. Well, there was no, you wouldn't have that many trees. Like, you would have to tear down forest upon forest to move those stones, let alone stack them into place. And I know they said that, well, they created ramps to, have them leveled. But no. All those things have been disproven, and we have not been able to recreate that whatsoever with the technology that we have.
Bobby, have you?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
Have either of you heard of, there's this guy in Florida in like the 60s or 70s or something, and he built these giant rock structures by himself, and it was a secret. Like, he would never tell anyone how he did it.
He worked at night.
Yeah.
He worked at night, even
and he
when
had walls up so you couldn't see in where he was. But there's like a giant, huge heavy rock balancing on this tiny rock.
You can
like,
push
he
it
did
with your
incredible.
finger. Yeah, you can push it with your finger.
Yeah, that you can move with your finger, and there's no metal involved. Like, it's literally just a rock balancing on another rock. And some people think that he was using exactly what you said, Bobby, that he was somehow using sound waves or something to move these stones. So it has been recreated, possibly.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but we don't know what technology he was using to this day. Everybody's been trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we don't know.
So yeah, Amy, you were going to say something about the pyramids, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to ask, like you said, it hasn't been recreated, but I was just wondering, have we tried to recreate? See, that I don't know, but
yes, we've
just said
definitely,
yes, we have.
Yeah, we've tried to recreate the stones. And again, we're talking about the amount of people, the amount of decades, and some believe that the Egyptians didn't even create pyramids, even the ones in...
Yeah, that they were older than...
Yeah, they were older.
What we
they
think.
were utilizing them, as structures, and then they, made them their own, and... they just able to last the test of time. But I just find in like the Baghdad battery, you guys know about that? Yeah, it's a device that was in a ceramic cylinder, and it had
like with vinegar.
Well, I'm not sure if it was dried up at the time, but it was just set up to where it actually was able to create electricity. It was you guys just look it up and check it out. It's called the Baghdad battery, and it's an incredible device that was used back in the day that created electricity. So it's just, over time, I just think that I really think our civilizations have been redone multiple times. And whatever disaster wiped us out, or however many people stayed on the planet, we keep coming back. We're like we're really the roaches of the earth. And, but this, I guess, is our version of the Terrence Howard episode and what's happening out there. And again, we're definitely not being scientific. Imagine if they wouldn't have stopped Tesla and all Tesla's information that the government took, and all the items and things that have been created within the last 50 years that we know nothing about, and all the technologies that are being hidden from us via DARPA and all kind of other things that we are paying for. So yeah, we do have a lot of questions, and hopefully Terrence won't come up missing or anything else. But yeah, I find it interesting. I find it interesting. So any closing thoughts, ladies?
Yeah, I think he's a very interesting guy, and I think whether he's right or wrong, I think the important thing is that he's getting people thinking, and he's getting people to talk, and I think that's important for people to do. It's like, okay, let's go against what the status quo is. Let's start looking at things differently. Maybe there's other ways of doing things. Maybe this is the wrong way of doing things. So to me, that's, I think, the most important thing is like he's challenging what people know, and it's, if he's wrong, I think that's okay. I think what he's doing is like really valuable to everyone, actually. Yeah.
Same.
That's so true. Yeah. I think it's always important to question what you know. And I think that's just another big problem with mainstream anything now, is that we think we have all the answers when we really don't know that much compared to what we think we do. And that's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
I got slapped with that a couple times on this episode, so I understand how hurtful that can be. But such is life.
Oh.
But yeah, I totally agree. I think that he's out there, but I do think I agree with Amy. I think it's important that he's getting people thinking about things in a different way. So,
yep. So this is the Terrence Howard episode, and we are out. Good night.
Bye.
As your journey through the shadow realms of Strange Darkness Radio concludes, remember that you unlock the door to the paranormal with the key of imagination. Beyond it lies another dimension, a dimension of eerie soundscapes, chilling sights, and the profound depths of the mind. You're venturing into a land of both haunting shadows and tangible substance, where the ethereal meets the corporeal, and ideas take on a spectral form. You've just crossed over into the Strange Darkness Radio Zone. In the vast expanse of the paranormal, there exists a fifth dimension, extending beyond the known realms of our understanding. It is a dimension vast as the cosmos and eternal as infinity, a mysterious terrain between the illumination of light and the depths of shadow. This is the middle ground between the empirical and the supernatural, where fears fester in the pit of humanity's soul and knowledge ascends to its zenith. Welcome to the dimension of imagination, an area we dub the Strange Darkness Radio Zone. As you conclude your journey with us, remember that you're departing this peculiar zone, a place where reality intertwines with the surreal. Be cautious as you step out, for you may find that the boundaries between the normal and the paranormal blur, leaving you forever in the lingering embrace of the unknown. Until next time, farewell from the depths of the Strange Darkness Radio Zone.